What I'm going to remind you of is that we only have this one Earth to live on. And it is a closed system, except we get some energy from the sun. A lot of this energy goes back out to space, but now less and less because it's being captured by the carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. And we just have to learn to live within our ecological boundaries, and fast. We have become a geological force. I am a geologist, so I like to remind people of that. We move 10 times more material than all of the natural forces every year. And if you imagine all the rivers, all the winds, all the ocean currents, the erosion of coastal lines and so on, we move 10 times more material. And 70% of that is because of uncareful, conventional agriculture. That's why changing agriculture is so important. So we are now in geological extinction period. Animals are now going extinct. Animals and other species are becoming extinct in the thousands per year. It's somewhere between 5 and 10,000 a year. It's faster than during the last extinction period when the dinosaurs disappeared. And in only 30 years, we have used up a third of the resources that we have on this earth. And this, of course, is completely unsustainable, and that's why a new path is so important. And this is primarily because of overconsumption here in the West. So everything is undergoing exponential growth. Doesn't matter, I'm sorry that these explanations are in Icelandic. I didn't notice that when I picked this slide. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Whether we are talking about population, GDP, dams on rivers, use of water, people in cities, paper, transport by cars, mobile phones, travelers around the world, McDonald's restaurant, we are in exponential growth. And there is a US mathematician who has said that the greatest shortcoming of humankind is that they don't understand exponential growth. Because if we would actually understand that, then we would realize that we can very easily calculate doubling times if we know the growth percentage. So the only thing you need to remember when you walk out of this room is the number 70. So you take 70 and you divide with that with the percentage growth number. So if it's 1%, then the doubling time is 70 years. If the growth rate is 7%, the doubling time is 10 years. And if the growth rate is 18.5%, as the Icelandic banks were giving, is 4.5 years. And of course it doesn't work. Of course it's completely unsustainable. And there's a very important paper that came out on the 24th of September last year, which talks about planetary boundaries. It came out in Nature. It's written by 28 key scientists from around the world. They have defined 9 boundaries for the Earth, and we have already exceeded 3. And that is climate change. Actually, we shouldn't have more than 350 ppm of CO2 in the atmosphere, as was mentioned here earlier. So 350, the most important number in the universe. We are at 389 now, so we need to actually decrease the CO2 in the atmosphere. The second one is nitrogen. We are putting too much nitrogen into our agricultural systems. It's causing 25% of the heating of the atmosphere. And then we have the biodiversity loss, which I talked about earlier. So we are exceeding these boundaries on the Earth, and we have to change our path. We have to learn our environmental responsibility to stabilize our ecological systems. We need steady state economics as opposed to growth economics, which internalizes the cost of nature. We need social equity across the globe, to have sustainable development. And for that, we need aware people. And that's why I think the education system is failing us in not producing, not educating the young people to tackle the future enormous difficulties they have to encounter. So growth in a limited world is unrealistic. And fortunately, there are people around the world now looking at different economic models. There's a very important report that came out last year on the 27th of March. I remember that because it's my birthday. It's called Prosperity Without Growth, written by Tim Jackson. You all need to read that. It sets out 12 steps to create a macroeconomy where we, within the Earth boundaries, and allowing growth in human capital and education and happiness. China is looking at cyclic economies. In the US, they're looking at selling services instead of items or products. And their cradle to cradle has been developed, which is learning from nature or using biomimicry in industrial systems. So we need new indicators because GDP was not designed to measure the success of nations. So in order to reach sustainability, we can describe that in 7 steps. We need to think long term, which is not what we're very good at. We think in political cycles, which is about 3 years. We need to understand systems, so systems thinking is key here. We need to know our limits, like the limits of the Earth. We need to protect nature. We need to change commerce, and that's already happening. We need to show equity across the globe, and we need to support entrepreneurship. And these are the 7 steps by Alan Atkinson, who is a remarkable American friend I met 2 years ago in Sweden. And I'm going to introduce you to his framework of thinking towards sustainability.